Bala, can you please mute
One,
yourself?
yeah,
Yeah.
one moment. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
One moment. Right. So is my screen visible now?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I'll give a quick intro before we start.
Sure.
Yeah.
S- Fine. So, all right, everyone. Good evening. So, this is Ramakrishna Kadia. I am working as a technical account manager at UiPath. I have around 15 years of experience, and with UiPath, I am for around 3 years. And along with me is my colleague Pawan Rathod. I would request Pawan to introduce himself.
Hello
Pawan.
everyone. So I am Pavan Rathor. I am also working as a technical account manager. I have been with UiPath around 10 years now, uh, and I support customers to grow, adopt multiple products, larger scale enterprise customers, so that helping them to scale across their environments and realizing ROI and the value from the product. So that's it pretty much from my end. Ram, you can continue.
Thanks, Pawan, for the introduction. All right. So today's agenda is mainly post installation steps. So as you many of you might already know that last time Pawan has shown us the the detailed steps to install the automation suite, right? And the installation was already done. And once the automation suite installation is done, which are the various steps that we can perform, right? Including how to access the automation suite, how we can join the agent node to the cluster, and how we can configure the analog target for orchestrator. So, say for example, Elasticsearch, right? And how we can configure the external storage, right? So all this stuff we are going to discuss today, and also we will have a little bit a theory around the active passive DR cluster setup with automation suite. All right. So firstly, once we have installed the automation suite, right, and we want to perform various, we want to run various command, right, which falls under the automation suite environment. So we need to enable the kubectl, right? So what I'll do is I'll also share my screen of okay, putty. Okay. So can you see my screen? Putty screen?
Yeah, we are
Yes.
able to see the screen. Can you increase the font a bit, maybe, Ram?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Appearance change.
Okay, is it fine? Visible, right? Okay, thanks. So once we log into our server, right? Node, automation suite node, we need to switch user to sudo root user, right? And then we need to run the export command. So this is a command, right, by which you can enable the kubectl, right? So let's do that. So once you do that, we can run this kubectl command, and we can have multiple options to play around, right? So this is how you can enable the kubectl. Now, as a next step, uh, how to retrieve the current certificate, right? So let me get that command. So as we already know that in automation suite, when you install it, you by default it gets installed with self-signed certificate, right? So it is the valid for 90 days, and the detail of that certificate, you can get it by this particular command, right? So this is the detail of your certificate. You can copy it and you can save it, and have the details to refer further. Okay. And next stage is once you have automation suite up and running, right? Which are the various steps that you need to follow, all right, in order to have the access to various component, right? So that we'll see in our browser. One moment, sharing that. Okay, so can you see my browser? Is it visible? Okay. So by using this particular link, this is your FQDN. This is the URL by which your automation suite will be accessible slash UiPath management. By this, you will be able to see the cluster management section, right? This will give you the various steps that you should follow, like accessing the Argo CD. So once you click, it will take you to Argo CD, right? I'll just log out first. We will see how we can log in and how we can get the password for this Argo CD. Then how you can configure the certificates, how you can access the automation suite like host administration and the generic interface, right? And how configure the cluster settings using CLI plus cluster configure, like how you can manage the products, manage certificates, configure Kerberos authentication. So all these links, right? It will direct it to our official documentation. So based on your requirement, you can, you know, refer this documentation and perform the desired activities, right? So this includes the configure centralized logging, like by using ELK, Splunk, and if you want to enable the backup for the cluster, that is also possible. Then cluster administration. So it the documentations are available for node administration, like adding or removing the nodes, right? Repaving a cluster node, shutting down a node, performing a node maintenance, restoring the cluster is also available. So if you're using Ansible, it is automated. If there are any manual way, if you want to choose, then these are the various links that you can refer to. Database maintenance, which includes the various options, like you can uh, maintain the database by using the by default having the automated backup mechanism. You can delete the data periodically, and uh, there is one solution available built by our team, uh, that is available in SQL script as well as through PowerShell script, through which you can automatically move your data from certain tables to your archive tables. So that is something which is available from this particular documentation links. You can also have access to monitoring and alerting tools that we will see in next few slides. And if you are stuck in any issue or trouble, you can have these various troubleshooting options, right? You can have access to diagnostics tool, so how you can use it. Also, how you can export the logs and how you can explore the log. Plus, whenever any ticket you raise with respect to automation suite, right? Most of the time our support team will require support bundle to understand the nature of issue and the background of the challenge that you are facing, right? So for that, support bundle is something which is built by our engineering team, which you can utilize, which will prepare a bundle of logs and required data that can be uh, uh, you know referred by our experts, and based on which they are going to help you out towards the resolution of the issue. So this is all about how the cluster management can be done. Next up, I will show you how you can access the automation suite general interface. Okay, so you just need to visit the
So, Ramkrishna, I have one
FQDN. Hello, yeah.
Yeah, you said that you will be saying how to get those passwords or how to create those passwords, but
Hmm.
I
Yep.
didn't show. Will you show that later?
Yeah, I'm just showing that.
Okay.
I'll just show that. Okay. So this is the link, your FQDN. Once you hit your FQDN, you will be directed to this login page, right? So by default, you have host as well as the default organization, right? So, say for example, we want to go with the default, right? So the default organization comes up with the default user, that is org admin, which is a admin user, and I'll show you the command, right? So this is the command kubectl get secrets platform service secrets UiPath, right?
RK, your screen
This
is not visible. You're sharing Chrome only.
okay. One moment. One moment. Okay. Let me share it again. Okay. And okay. Are you able to see my uh, putty session?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the command by which you will be able to get the secrets, right? So once you hit it, one moment. Yeah. So this is the password, right, which is available. So this password you can copy and use it as your org admin password, right? And since I've already used that password, I have resetted it. So once you log in with the default password, the system will ask you to reset at your first attempt, right? And once you reset, you will be able to access the dashboard of your automation suite uh, homepage, right? This is the homepage of automation suite, right? So similarly, it is for the host, what we can call it as uh, host user or host admin. So are you able to see my this Chrome screen?
So you can share the entire desktop, right? Instead of sharing. You
Pardon?
can share the entire desktop, right? Instead of sharing individual screens.
Yeah, let me check. Okay, fine. All right. So accessing host administration, right? So for that, you need to use the URL, the your FQDN, right? Organization would be host, username would be admin, and password. Using this particular command, you will be able to get the password for the host admin. Again, right? So we get the password and how we can access it through our screen. So that is, we need to have the organization name as host, username admin, and password, right? So this is how your host admin looks like. You can go to license and you can activate the license from here, and you can create as many organizations that you want to, right? And for each organization, you can allocate the licenses from here, right? Okay, so this was all about uh, accessing host and generic interface of automation suite. Now we will go to next slide. So accessing the Argo CD, right? So for that, URL would be alm.yourfqdn. All right. So what I need to do is I just need to just remove this. Okay. So now its default username is admin and password would be using this command you will be able to get, right? So this is the password that you can copy and you can go to your browser admin and paste the password and sign in. So this is how the Argo CD interface looks like. You will be able to see all the application in a tile view like this, and you will be able to see the all the application based on their health status. You can filter it if there is anything degraded application or missing application is there. You can just click and check, and you can get into the details and you can check the various logs, right, events, and based on that you will be able to identify if there is anything wrong or not, right? Even you can delete and recreate the pods from here, right? Next is monitoring tools. So for monitoring, you just in monitoring we have various applications. So for metrics, we are using Prometheus. For dashboard, we support it through Grafana. Alert management is supported through Alert Manager, and for persistent block storage, the Longhorn dashboard is available. All right. So how can we access our monitoring tools? So we just need to use monitoring.fqdn/metrics for metrics for Prometheus. For say for example, we're going to go with Grafana, right? So just copy dashboard. Yeah. Okay. So let me go first. Yeah. Monitoring. Okay. Right. So firstly, we need to log in, right? So using this, we use username as an admin, and this is a password, right? So this is a password that we have. We need to make sure that we do not get the extra characters. Right. So this is the Longhorn interface. If you go, if you want to have a look at Grafana, right? This is how you can have a look at it. And similarly, you can also access the alert manager. So you can manage various alerts of your automation suite through this, right? And this is the basic Longhorn dashboard, right? So as you can see, if you see nodes, so I have single node, right? Volume, so we'll be able to the details of various volumes, states, it's healthy, name of the volume, what is the size, actual size, when it was created, right? Namespace attached to which particular instance, right? Application, right? If you have set up any recurring job, backup, and the general settings if you want to set up anything. So this was all about the basic post installation steps. Uh, and rest I would request Pawan to take care of it. Over to Pawan.
Thank you, RK. That was very insightful. So continuing further, I will share my screen. Let me know once you guys are able to see my screen.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So, like once the installation is completed, right? RK has already shown how you can go ahead and access a certain applications, apps that are present for monitoring, maintaining, managing the cluster itself. That you can do it from, right? Now, in case, right, while you're trying and you want to access these pointers, right? And you might the CDN or the FQDN that the DNS that you have already created, it might not be accessible from your local machine and may not be registered. So what you can do is you can, if you're using Windows machine as an your local machine to connect to the platform, what you can do is you can edit host file entries or like this, basically. So once you add your host file entries with the particular IP of your cluster and the FQDN URL, the cluster URL of it, right? So it will directly take you uh, to the portal page. Basically, it will resolve it. And if this is the only entry present, you might not be able to access certain other URLs like monitoring.fqdn or matrices. So what you need to do is you can do one thing. You can place a star or you can just define these URLs within your host config file, which would enable you to access the entire cluster, right? Okay, moving forward. Now, if I talk about cluster manual installation, right? So we have already looked at the steps, right? And when you're installing a cluster, tell what you say. So you go ahead, the steps majority remain the same. One second. Yes, yes. Okay. So if I go till here, right, you get the files, download it, and keep it in all your server nodes. So in a cluster mode, we support 3 nodes, 5 nodes, 7 nodes, and so on. So minimum for a cluster, 3 server nodes would be required. So you need to download all the setup files on all the server machines. So the sequence would be, first you need to install infra on all the install prerequisites on all the server machines, install infra on all the server machines, and then you have to apply the manifest from the main server machine. All right. Now, once you have done the infra installation on a particular server machine, you need to copy your cluster config file, which would be present within OPT, UiPath Automation Suite. If I go ls, this would be the cluster.config file, right? You need to copy this particular file and place it on the other server machines. Once the file is placed, you will have to continue with the further steps. Like this, you need to place the file on all the assuming you are creating a 3 node cluster, wherein 3 nodes are server nodes and 2 would be agent nodes. That would become a 5 node cluster. Minimum of 3 nodes, server nodes are required for a cluster, right? So agent nodes is depending upon your. So for the cluster config, you need to copy the cluster.config file to all the server nodes. Once the cluster.config file is copied on all the server nodes, we need to install infra, check on the prerequisites, and install infra on all the server machines. So the infra installation command would be this, right? And it needs to join the main cluster as well. So basically, if I refer the public documentation, while installing infrastructure on the first server nodes, you need to pass the parameter k and rk install. So this will install the Kubernetes layer on the server machine. If I move further, then what you need to do is install infra on the other server machines. So when you are installing infra on the other server machines, you need to mention the server name as well. So basically, and you need to mention this as an Kubernetes layer, -j for joining to the particular cluster, and server would be the your IP. You can give to which you want to join this particular cluster. So like this, what would happen is this particular server node, the second server node from where you are installing it, it will go ahead and join to the main cluster server nodes. Like this, if you are having 3 nodes, 4 nodes, every node, server node should go ahead and join to the main cluster node, right? So this is the command. You always need to join your server. Server represents that this would be acting as server and contains the Kubernetes layer, which has been installed on this particular machine, right? Once the installation of the server nodes is done, Kubernetes plane, once it is installed on all the server nodes, then you need to install the Kubernetes layer on all your agent nodes. If it is a 5-node cluster, I'm assuming 3 nodes could be server nodes, 2 nodes would be agent node. So you need to define whether this is an agent node or this is a server node. So when you are connecting from an agent node and joining it to a cluster, it would mention that join as an agent. And for server nodes, it would mention as an join as a server. Command would be very similar to the infra installation that you do. Post which, according to your current cluster config file, right? What you need to do is you need to hydrate the registry. So hydrating the registry would ensure that all the products that are enabled within your cluster.config file, right? So it would hydrate the registry so that which would ensure them all the images required for the installation according to the product selection are present there. So once they are present, you should be able to go ahead and install the service layer or the fabric layer. Now, before you go ahead and run the complete installation on your nodes, right? What you can do is you can perform a quick validation, right? How many nodes are there, right? So for agent, it will say agent nodes, and for server, it will say server nodes. So when you try to execute kubectl get nodes, it will give you results back similar to this, wherein all the nodes would be listed here, and if they are able or ready for scheduling and executing the load, the status would also represent it. Once you have like ensured on all the agent nodes and server nodes, the Kubernetes plane has been installed using the same cluster config file. Then what you can do is you can go ahead and complete the installation by running apply manifest. So first you will have to again create the manifest, and then you have to run it, and then you have to apply it. So these are the 3 steps while you are creating the cluster. Prerequisites you need to ensure similar to the first node installation, right? So this is the generic guideline and how you can go ahead and you create your own clusters. Talking about Elasticsearch configs, right? So if I have to add my cluster config, listen, right? Say that if you want to enable orchestrate Elasticsearch within the orchestrator so that the logs can flow. So you can go ahead and edit this particular block. Once you edit this particular block, you need to place this block, orchestrator, Elasticsearch, robot elastic. This would be the exact key. You cannot change these keys across. Only the parameters you can go ahead and change it across. Rest all you can keep the same. So this would be your Elasticsearch target. Where is your Elasticsearch placed? And if it requires a username and a password, you can place your username and password. If not, you can directly go ahead and configure the same. So how this would be, I think you will have to do it in this way. So let me try to edit. Yeah, just a point. And I have to insert now If you go down, so this is my orchestrator. So basically, this is the key. Now you need to ensure that JSON is being correctly formulated. Now it will go wrong, right? So I will capture the block for the Elasticsearch. Right. So this is how it will look like once done. This comma is not needed and you can press an enter. So this would complete this particular block. It is within this block. Ensure this JSON is correctly formulated, and if this is correctly formulated, you can go ahead and exit it. Post you exit. After this, what you need to do is you need to apply the manifest JSON so that the changes takes place. Okay, and that would be apply manifest command to create prerequisite and charts. For installation. No, this would create it, right? This would create, and the changes to whatever you have done onto the cluster.config file, it will apply those and your Elasticsearch would get configured. Now, any changes to this particular file that you're making, right? Any changes to this particular file that are being made, it should be followed up by the prerequisites checks running. You can follow that up that there are no errors within the cluster.config file. Then you should apply the manifest so that the changes take place. Now, if the environment is already running within and users are using it, you would need certain downtime so that users are not impacted. This always requires certain amount of downtime so that the changes are reflected back to the cluster. Second would be external storage, right? And we would be placing the entire blocks with this change, right? So I have given this as an action center, but this could be anything, right? So the main key here would be how you can go ahead and connect to an external bucket storage. We recommend, instead of using self storage, always try to go ahead and use S3 buckets, because the storage is automatically expandable and you can increase the size of, and the size doesn't depend. Now, if you are using a persistent storage and if the size is limited there, right? So the environment might fail or the cluster might show certain exceptions, right? Which can be monitored, but it is advised you can go ahead and use directly S3 buckets. Now, the key would be here, external object store, and the bucket name would be this one, right? In similar way, like this is your storage bucket for action center. What happens generally is that you can have multiple storage buckets for individual products. And if I have to show it like cluster config, say that if you have a different storage bucket for Orchestrator, you will have to configure the different, again, like this block closes here. One second. Yeah. So this block for Orchestrator, this block is closing here. So you can give a comma here. Second, insert comma, and then you can place your blocks. How I would place it. Like this, right? So I think this would not require a comma. This would not require a comma. One second. Okay. So external storage bucket is enabled, right? Calling this as an action center, you can name that as an orchestrator storage bucket. That should do it. And we would be providing you a sample cluster config file as well, wherein you can directly use these configurations instead of making individual changes. You can rename this as an orchestrator. Orchestrator. So the block for the orchestrator configs, the block would look like this, something similar, right? Once you do the configurations, and the similar, if the buckets are different for each of these products, you need to copy this block from here as well and place it within Action Center, Test Manager if you want to use, or if it is AI Center or document understanding would be majoritarily needed. So you need to place this current block within the document understanding as well. So for individual products, if you're creating individual buckets, you can go ahead and configure in a similar way. For every product, you will have to provide the bucket name to isolate this thing. I would like to add additional config as well here, right? In case the databases are already provisioned, within this block, you can mention the data string as well, and which the format of which you will be able to find in our documentations. So I would accept this. Again, after making any changes to the cluster.config, you will have to apply that particular manifest. And once the particular manifest has been applied, later point of time, you will be able to see the changes taking place within your cluster config file. Now, how you would ensure that your cluster is running perfectly fine? Cube ctl get pods. Okay, 1 second. Kubectl command is not found. This usually comes because we have not exported the kube config. So you can directly visit accessing UiPath automation suite.
Pawan, Pawan, are you there?
Hello. Hello guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me guys?
Yes, we are hear you. We are able to hear you, and also you can see your screen.
Okay. So you can visit UiPath or accessing UI automation suite. Fine. So I think if kubectl is not recognized, which means you haven't exported the kube config for RKE and the path for the rancher RKE is not been set. So if you face like if you're not able to execute or run the commands of kubectl, then you need to export the configs. This is available in our public docs and this has been included in the hands-ons as well. Right. So you get pods. So these are the pods that are running, and these are majoritarily for the services as well, right? You should be able to find your pod here corresponding to any of the services that UiPath is running. If I have to take an example, this is your orchestrator pod, right? And it is 2 by 2. So basically the number of pods it is currently running is 2. Now, depending upon the particular load, Orchestrator has an auto scaling. So you don't have to manually go ahead and scale the pods. As soon as the load increases, it would make these deployments from 2 to 4, 4 to 6, like this, 7, 8, 9, 10. It keeps on scaling as per the request and the load. So no config changes needed here. This will automatically take care. I'm just trying to let you know guys where are these pods hosted and how you're accessing the application. So this is majoritarily responsible for accessing your orchestrator. In case like say that environment is being set up and you are unable to access your orchestrator, you might first thing what you might need to do is come and look back at these pods for a particular specific application that is down. You can go ahead and describe on this pod. You can check the logs as well for these pods, which would give you a further elaborated error. That would be another way, as RK mentioned and suggested, that you can go ahead and export the support bundle, but this would be another way to narrow down the issue. Like, say that if you are accessing the application automation suite and if you find any of their application is not responding well, you can come back, have a look as to which pods are down here and try to correlate it whether that is the portion impacted. And then if you feel like, then you can go ahead and further troubleshoot it by looking at the logs. So all the applications would be placed here, right? And this is identity service pods, automation hub service pods, and AI center service pods you will be able to find. These are action center pods. So all we literally talked about fabric layer, infra layer. So majoritarily, if you see the namespace as an UiPath, this is your fabric layer. This majoritarily all the components reside within the fabric layer. We call this as an fabric layer, wherein all the services are placed. Apps is also apps is also placed, action center is also placed, and whatever services that you enable within UiPath that users are using it, it would be placed within the UiPath namespace. Other namespace is UiPath infra, and this would be the Rucksack namespace. These are the Rucksack pods which controls your storage within the cluster. Right. So this has a replicating feature. Basically, the Rucksack pods would be residing in all the server nodes, wherein it tries to keep the replica of the same data, so that in case one of the server nodes gets lost or destroyed or is not recoverable, what you can do, the data is still intact and you don't lose any data. Fine, and then you will be able to find the Redis systems here. This is the Redis cluster, which is responsible, as you have seen in the standalone orchestrators as well, right? We use Redis. So within the automation suite setup, Redis by default gets installed, right? And these are monitoring pods, which RK has already shown you, wherein from where you monitor across. Say that now, if you are not able to access Prometheus, Grafana, or any of the alert managers, like again, you can come back to these sections and look these logs across. This is the Kubernetes plane. We talked in earlier sessions, right? We have discussed about Istio gateway. We have discussed about etcd. We have discussed about kubectl commands and gatekeepers, right? And certificate managers. This we covered in the design diagram in the first session. So all these components do get installed and these services are being running within the cluster. This is the Kubernetes majoritarily. This would be your Kubernetes plane. This is the Kubernetes plane majoritarily. Right. This would be your storage layer for the rook chef. Fine. And this is the service layer where the services are running. Right. Okay. You can isolate from services as well, right? You ETL pods -n UiPath. So you can use such commands as well. -n represents your namespace. If you want to get the pods from just the UiPath namespace, you will be able to get those. Right. And you can use O-wide as well, which would give you, along with this command, you can use O-wide as well, which would give you that which pod is running on which of the nodes. Right. So this is majoritarily it. Now, active passive installation and DR considerations. So before going to that, I would like to know that only certain products are being governed by this, right? All the products does not have active passive mode. So there are few considerations when you are installing active passive or a DR environment of automation suite. You need to ensure first is your SQL server. You need to ensure the SQL server is always on and in a high availability mode. Both of your clusters, which is present in active side and which is present in the passive side, both should be pointing to the SQL. same SQL, which is in always on state. Second would be your storage. Now you will have to use the same storage buckets that are part of your active site. So while configuring the passive side, ensure you are using the same configuration and same storage buckets which are configured on the active side. So for that, right, what you can do is you need to get the config, manifest config. Fine. So what you do is you don't generate your cluster.config file. Fine. You can copy the cluster.config file to the server nodes in the secondary cluster. So if you have already set up the primary cluster, what you can do is you can pick the cluster.config file and directly place it within the passive cluster. So once that is done, you can go ahead and update the cluster.config file. So why this update is needed on the secondary cluster or the passive cluster would be because only certain products are supported as an active passive. Not all the products are supported yet. And the example of that would be test manager is not supported. So you need to make that as an false. Process mining, automation hub, insights. So you need to make these products as an false while configuring the secondary or the passive cluster. Once you're done with that, you need to generate the kube config and with a high parameter multi-site. So which would let UiPath configs to know as this is a multi-site and this is the secondary cluster which we are trying to install. So once that is done, so the RKE, right? RK is a service which is responsible of distributing all the files. Now, what would happen is from a passive cluster, you cannot directly go ahead and connect to the primary cluster. You would need some way to connect to it. So you can generate an RKE token which would be used to connect to the primary cluster. So once that is generated, you can go ahead and install again the Kubernetes plane, infra layer, and once the Kubernetes plane and infra layer is installed on all the server nodes, what you can do is you can apply the manifest. So the cluster config file that you have taken from the primary cluster would act as a starting point with all the configurations remaining, apart from the restrictions or the limitations on the supported product for the passive side. You need to disable them, and rest all the configs will be taken from the original active cluster. So these are some of the considerations that needs to be taken care. Now, you cannot have both the cluster running simultaneously. You need to, if your active cluster is up and running, you need to scale down your products within the passive cluster so that they are not running. And if you are trying to bring up the passive cluster, you need to scale down the pods or the deployments which are present within the active cluster onto the secondary site. So this is majoritarily on the DR environments and some considerations on the DR environment. Now, I have attached this particular file which you guys were requesting last time for the commands. Now, this will contain all the commands that have been used within our installation and in our accessing automation suite and setting up the path, etc., etc. This would be supplied to you guys with the deck. Now, I think so. With that, I think we come to an end of this session. So, if you have any queries, do let us know. And Bala, you there?
Yes, yes, Pawan.
Bala, you can disable the other products that you have enabled and try it once again. Disable majoritarily AI Center and Insights and try it again to run. Try to run the apply manifest. It should solve your problem.
Sorry, come again.
Disable AI Center and DU and disable, what do you say, Insights. AI Center requires an additional disk for training and pipelines, all those, etc. So you try disabling it and then try to run it once. I haven't checked your log file yet. I'm just giving a recommendation. I will check and probably I will get back to you with the exact error and the solution around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how can I contact you?
Mm, Suhani, are you there?
Yes, Pawan.
So is there a recommended way like people from the community team can contact?
Uh, yes, they can reach out to my email and then I can direct it to you.
That should be fine.
Okay. So if that doesn't resolve, if possible, can you schedule a meeting to solve the issue?
You can reach out. Like firstly, it should be resolving it, or else I would reach out to you.
Okay.
Yeah. You try to disable those products. It requires an additional disk so that your AI center models and the training get completed. So if you do that, it should solve your problem.
Okay.
Your session. Any more queries, any more doubts, guys?
Yeah, so one more. So Pavan, after changing the cluster.config.json, should I need to reload any of any of those services or something like that with any of the commands, or shall
For
I
your
actually?
scenario, I think so. For your scenario, ideally recommended would be you need to run the pre-check and like verify, run the manifest. That should be the ideal way. But since I believe all the images are already present within the registry, you can directly run the manifest. It should work for you.
So you're asking me to create the
Just,
cluster.config
no, not
command?
create. Not
Okay.
create. You can make in the cluster.config file, you have a flag which says AI center enabled is equals to true.
Yeah, yeah.
And similar way you have for due and similar way you have for insights. You make that enabled flag as in false.
Okay.
Okay. Once you make that as in false, you just run your apply manifest command again.
Okay.
And if that doesn't work out, you can reach out to Suhani probably, and she would redirect those queries to you.
Okay.
Anything else, Bala?
Uh, that's it.
So, and Bala, I wanted to show you this actually.
Okay.
So if you look at, sorry, this is 23.10. I need to change the version 1 second. 24.10. You see, AI Center, you have enabled it. It requires an additional disk.
Yeah, but okay,
And
I got it. I got it.
this is 3, right? So if you look at the direction, this refers to the storage required by AI disk, right? So we recommend to attach. So for the time being, what you can do is you can just disable that particular.
Okay,
Uh,
so can you send your config file for reference?
I will attach it to the deck.
Okay,
I will not send mine config file, but what I would do is I will send a config file which contains all the possible flags basically.
okay,
Okay. So basically in cluster object store, if you're opting, right, you might need to configure this way. This is the Ceph raw disk that you need to attach if you're using AI Center. And like you can go ahead and configure it in this way.
okay.
Yep. Okay. Any other question, guys?
there anything else, guys? Any more doubts? No, so I think it's all clear. With that, we come to the end of the last session. I hope you all had a learning journey. If there's any topic you all would want to explore with us, do reach out to us and let us know, and we can schedule it for you all as well. Let's overwrite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
Cool, guys. See you all.
thank you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.